News Talk on Samar News, your go-to podcast for the latest headlines and in-depth discussions. Join us as we unravel the stories that matter most, bringing you insightful commentary and expert analysis. Tune in for thought-provoking conversations that spark dialogue and inspire action. Stay connected with the news that shapes our world, only on News Talk on Samar News.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. You've sent us some really interesting materials this week, focusing on that whole sequence of events with President Trump, the tariffs, and, well, his suggestion to buy stocks right before some tariffs got rolled back.
Exactly. And yeah, it's definitely raised some eyebrows, especially around potential insider trading.
Sure. So we've got that letter here from Senator Schiff and Gallego to the Office of Government Ethics.
Right, the OGE. And also a news article that sort of rounds up reactions from others, like Representative Ocasio-Cortez.
So our mission here, for you listening, is to unpack this timeline. We want to lay out the events, pinpoint the main concerns lawmakers are voicing, and, get a handle on the possible implications without jumping to conclusions.
Sounds good. Where should we start? The initial tariffs?
Yeah, let's start there. April 2nd. That's when President Trump first brought in these new tariffs.
He did. He used the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, that's IEEPA. It's a powerful tool. Give the president a lot of leeway on international commerce if there's a national emergency.
And he used it pretty broadly this time, right? Not just one country or specific goods.
That's the thing. It was really wide-ranging, hitting imports from, loads of countries, covering all sorts of goods.
And the markets, they didn't like that much, did they?
Not at all. The reaction was fast and, frankly, pretty harsh. That letter from Schiff and Gallego mentions it. The S&P 500 had its worst four-day drop since the index was created.
Wow. And they put a number on it.
Yeah, something like $5.83 trillion in lost value.
Yeah.
Just wiped out. Gives you a sense of the scale of the shock.
That's staggering. Now, the letter says a four-day decline. Is it fair to say it was only the tariffs causing that, or could other things have been going on in the economy right then?
That's a really good point. It's always tough to pin market moves on just one thing. But the timing here is pretty suggestive, isn't it? A major policy change like that hitting so many areas of trade, investors react.
Yeah, makes sense. That kind of uncertainty often spooks the market.
Exactly. The sheer breadth of these tariffs probably magnified that feeling.
Okay,
so that was early April. Then we jump forward about a week to April 9th.
Right. And this is where it gets particularly interesting with this social media angle.
Definitely. So morning of April 9th, President Trump posts on Truth Social.
Yeah, I saw those. First one around 9:43 a.m. Be cool. Everything's going to work out well. Something like that.
The USA will be bigger and better than ever before. Oh. That was it. And then 4 minutes later,
he posts again, 9:37 a.m. And this one was pretty direct.
This is a great time to buy DJT. All caps, exclamation points, even his initials.
Yeah, that's the one. Pretty unambiguous, you'd have to say.
And the timing of that post is key, given what happened later the same day.
Absolutely critical, because just a few hours later, around 1:18 p.m., again on Truth Social, President Trump announces a pause.
A pause on the tariffs he just imposed.
On some of them, yeah. Reports said it was a 90-day pause on some of the global tariffs affecting certain goods.
And the market reaction. Just as fast, but the other way. You got it. Complete reversal. That news article we have highlights it. The markets just shot up. The S&P 500 closed up 9.5%.
9.5% in one day.
Yep. Its biggest single-day jump since back in November 2020.
So just to recap, tariffs announced, market tanks, Trump says buy stocks. Hours later, tariffs paused, market rockets.
That's the sequence. And that very tight turnaround, that's really the heart of why these insider trading questions are being asked so loudly.
Which brings us neatly to the lawmakers' concerns. Let's start with that Schiff and Gallego letter to the OGE.
Right. They're basically calling for an urgent investigation. They're worried that people, government officials maybe, or their families, might have known about the tariff pause before it went public.
And use that information to trade.
Precisely. Knew it was coming, bought stocks when they were down after the initial announcement, and then potentially sold after the rebound when the pause was announced, profiting from non-public information.
They mentioned Trump using IEPA before, too, don't they? Sort of establishing a pattern?
Yeah, they note his prior use of it, and they clearly connect the dots. Tariffs go on, market drops, tariffs paused, market surges. It's a predictable cause and effect in their view.
So the core issue for them is?
It's the potential for abuse. They argue these rapid policy swings predictably move the markets, and given that predictability, the timing, and the president's own buy suggestion, it creates a serious risk, a risk that insiders could exploit the situation for private gain. That raises huge legal and ethical red flags for them.
And they're not just raising flags, they want the OGE to act. What are they asking for specifically?
They want a full review. They're asking the OGE to look at records, communications, financial transactions from White House staff, other executive branch employees, even those special government employees.
And the president's family, too.
Yes, his family. They want to see who traded what and when, specifically around that April 9th announcement. Did anyone know this was coming?
The letter gets really specific with its questions for the OGE, right? What are some of the main ones?
Oh, yeah, they're very detailed. They ask, point blank, were White House or other executive branch people told about the tariff change before the public knew?
And if they were?
Then when were they told? How were they told? What channels were used? They also want to know if the White House even talked to the OGE before briefing anyone.
And it wasn't just officials they were asking about, was it? They mentioned the family again there.
Correct. They specifically ask if Trump family members were in on the discussions or if they were tipped off about the pause beforehand.
And crucially, what steps, if any, were taken to stop people misusing this information?
Exactly. What safeguards were in place, or were there none? They're trying to gauge the potential for leaks and illicit trading.
Okay, let's shift to Representative Ocasio-Cortez. The news article covers her reaction, which was also pretty forceful.
It was, yeah. She went straight to Twitter, and basically called it out as potential insider trading.
What did she say exactly?
Her first post urged any member of Congress who'd got stocks in the previous 48 hours to disclose it publicly. She even mentioned the upcoming May 15th disclosure deadline.
So putting pressure on colleagues.
Seems like it. And then she followed up hearing interesting chatter on the floor and flat out saying it's time to ban insider trading in Congress, really linking this event to that broader issue.
Did she offer any evidence beyond suspicion?
Well, she shared a chart. It apparently showed a big spike in trading volume right before the tariff pause was announced, suggesting, maybe some people knew something and were acting on it just ahead of the news breaking.
Interesting. Now, the article also brings in other voices. Representative Horsford, for instance. He confronted Trump's trade rep, didn't he?
He did. During a hearing with Jamieson Greer, Trump's trade representative, Horsford basically asked him straight up, was this market manipulation?
That's a strong term. Did he elaborate?
Yeah, he pressed him, asking something like, if this was always the plan to pause the tariffs, how is this not market manipulation? He sounds deeply skeptical about the whole thing. Like, was the initial tariff just a setup for the reversal?
And Greer's response, the trade rep.
He pushed back hard, denied any market manipulation. He framed the whole sequence, the tariffs, the pause, as part of a bigger plan to reset the global trade system.
So a policy strategy, not market games. That's his line.
That's his explanation, yes. A very different take on the motive.
The article also mentions Senator Murphy. What was his take?
His reaction was also quite strong. He said something like, an insider trading scandal is brewing. Very direct.
And similar concerns to Schiff and Gallego.
Very much so. He was asking who close to Trump might have known about the pause beforehand and, could have made money from it, echoing those same worries about non-public information being misused.
Did Murphy mention the president's buy tweet, too?
He did. He specifically questioned why Trump would send out that great time to buy post earlier that day, right before the policy reversal was announced. Like Horsford, he seems to find the timing highly suspicious.
It does seem like many of them, regardless of party, are finding it hard to just chalk this up to coincidence.
Absolutely. When you just lay out that timeline again, April 2nd, tariffs go on, market drops. April 9th morning, President Trump says buy. April 9th afternoon, tariffs get paused, market surges.
That window between the buy suggestion and the actual policy news is incredibly short.
It really is. And that compression, that proximity is what's driving these suspicions and the calls for investigation.
So let's try and summarize the key questions that are hanging over this whole episode.
Okay, well, the big one is, did anyone with inside knowledge trade on it? Did government officials, family members, anyone else who knew the pause was coming before the public use that to profit?
And related to that, was there unusual trading activity? That spike in volume AOC mentioned.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Was there a detectable pattern of trades right before the announcement that looks suspicious? And then there's the question about Trump's posts themselves. What was the intent? What was the impact? Did they improperly influence the market, especially combined with the policy change?
It's definitely striking how lawmakers from different sides seem to be raising similar ethical and legal alarms, even if their tone or proposed solutions differ.
It is. There seems to be a shared concern underneath the politics about market integrity and trust in government. The idea that insiders might be gaming the system using privileged information is corrosive, whichever side you're on.
Yeah, it cuts to the core of fair markets and trust.
Absolutely. And it highlights just how tangled policy, presidential communications, even informal ones on social media and market reactions have become. Markets are clearly hypersensitive to this stuff.
So this is obviously complex, and as that letter shows, the official inquiries might just be starting.
Looks that way. It'll be interesting to see what, if anything, the OGE or potentially other bodies uncover.
Right. So for everyone listening, hopefully this deep dive has helped clarify the sequence, the tariffs going on, the social media posts, the pause coming soon after, and the immediate backlash and questions from lawmakers. We've tried to stick to the facts presented in the sources you send us.
And it leaves us with a pretty significant question to chew on, doesn't it? Thinking about how quickly the market swung after these policy changes and the president's own statements, what kind of rules or safeguards do you think should be in place? How do we prevent potential misuse of information and keep public confidence high, both in the markets and in government actions?
That's definitely food for thought. Keep following the story. Look for credible reporting as it unfolds. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
News Talk on Samar News, your go-to podcast for the latest headlines and in-depth discussions. Join us as we unravel the stories that matter most, bringing you insightful commentary and expert analysis. Tune in for thought-provoking conversations that spark dialogue and inspire action. Stay connected with the news that shapes our world, only on News Talk on Samar News.